And a new legal report presented Tuesday in Jerusalem details how Hamas used sexual violence as a weapon of war on October 7th. And it calls for international action. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has the story.
At the president's residence in Jerusalem, a new report was presented to First Lady Michal Herzog, and with it a demand for global accountability. Titled A Quest for Justice, October 7 and Beyond, the report offers the first legal framework for prosecuting Hamas for using sexual violence as a weapon of war during its attack on Israel. The report, authored by legal experts from the Dina Project at Bar-Ilan University, documents at least 15 cases of rape, genital mutilation, and post-mortem abuse, based on testimony from survivors, eyewitnesses, first responders, and medical professionals. Many of the bodies recovered were partially or fully naked, bound, and showed signs of violent assault. Speaking at the event, First Lady Michal Herzog condemned the use of sexual violence in warfare.
The use of sexual violence as a tool of war is not acceptable in any conflict in the world, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in Africa or whether it's in the Middle East.
Among those in the room was Ilana Gritsutski, a former hostage who was kidnapped from her home in Kibbutz Nir Oz. She described being assaulted, beaten, and waking up half naked, surrounded by terrorists. Her partner, Matan Zankeher, is still being held captive in Gaza. She said that she lives in fear every day, unsure of what is being done to him, but knowing all too well what was done to her. According to the report's authors, the attacks were not random acts, but part of a coordinated campaign of terror and humiliation, targeting Israeli society as a whole. They argue these crimes meet the definition of crimes against humanity and must be prosecuted as such. One of the lead authors, Professor Ruth Halperin-Kadari, said the goal is to use the existing international law to ensure justice, even without direct testimony from victims. Most victims were murdered. Survivors are often too traumatized to speak out. She said their work is not only legal, but deeply personal, a response to the silence and denial many Israelis feel from the international community.
Our aim is to be able to convince the Secretary General to include Hamas in the blacklist of those entities, of those countries that use or that condone the use of sexual violence as a tool of war. And we want to introduce it in other international forums to human rights organizations. Part of our aim is to set the record straight.
The report calls on Israel to pursue charges against all participants in the October 7 attack, using the principle of collective responsibility, and urges the United Nations to formally blacklist Hamas. At the event, speakers described the report as a message to the world that sexual violence in war is never incidental, and it must never be ignored.